be. Please bear with us.
You saved me some energy. It's okay.
Yeah,
I
was like, I was going to introduce you, but I didn't give you that opportunity to give me the permission.
I'm glad you care about me.
I do care. I would never do that anyway.
You're right about that. Well, as you wake up today, hey, the biggest thing right now is we've been tracking Hurricane Francine. A lot of you have been out and about all throughout the day today, preparing, filling up your gas tanks. Make sure you got enough food, water, non-perishable items. Make sure your generator is good to go. Make sure you have gas for your generator. A lot of you have been out and about, busy as I don't know what. But hey, as time gets closer, some places have a curfew in effect probably within the next hour or so from now. And also, as the winds start picking up, as the rain really start picking up, it's best to go ahead and start going inside as soon as possible.
Well, Jim Sion's been saying it all morning long. Really, by noon is probably the best time that you should just, have all of your preparations finished, be in the house, ready to ride out this storm. Let's send things over to him right now for an update on Francine, where things stand as we approach 11 a.m.
Well, I was just thinking about when I came in at just about 1 o'clock in the morning, meteorologist Devin Lucy and I were talking about the storm, which was getting better organized. It actually strengthened pretty quickly in about a 3-hour period. Since then, though, it hasn't gotten any stronger, and it's looking less and less organized. In case you haven't seen any of the advisories, basically, I can give it to you in a nutshell. Category 1 hurricane likely to come ashore at about 7 o'clock tonight, right around Morgan City. And in the evening, just about everyone in our viewing area going to see tropical storm force winds, if not hurricane force winds or wind gusts. Now take a look at what we have right now as far as the winds in the Gulf of Mexico. The areas that you see here in the red, hurricane force winds. These are tropical storm force winds. That's 50 miles off our coastline. That's why we said the noon hour, make sure you have everything done, because these winds are going to be moving in. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you a graphic that takes you all the way through the evening as far as the wind field goes. Wave heights increasing even off our coast, anywhere from 5 to 6 feet, about 10 miles off the coast, but still close to the center, 18 to 20-foot waves. That's what's ahead for some of us. Maybe not 20-foot waves, but that gives you an idea how strong the storm is. Now let's show you the rain, because if you're heading out right now in the next couple of hours to maybe do some last-minute hurricane preparations, you're going to have to go ahead and deal with some rain. However, the winds, not really a story just yet. Slidell, more rain for you, but it should be getting lighter in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Let's go a little bit farther to the south and show you what's going on right here, close to the metro area. More showers moving up toward New Orleans, Gentilly. Again, this is going to be rain that increases late morning, afternoon. The rain's going to be getting heavier. Heaviest rain out in the Gulf of Mexico. And here it is, Houma, Thibodaux, Golden Meadow, Grand Isle. Rain getting heavier for you in the next 45 minutes. Now, here are the winds. And quite frankly, they're not that impressive just yet, but we're seeing them increase. Winds at over 20 miles per hour in a few spots at the lakefront. And our wind gusts, okay, now we're seeing some wind gusts up close to 30. Obviously, these winds are going to be getting stronger as we go through the afternoon into the evening. Here's the most recent satellite view. Francine, winds at 90 miles per hour. And I put Morgan City on the map because it really looks like that's where it's going to come ashore at about 7 o'clock. It's almost exactly 150 miles away from Morgan City right now. Water vapor imagery shows us what's been happening, or at least one of the things that's been happening. We were hoping for this drier air mixing in, helping to keep the hurricane, well, just keeping it from not strengthening, if you will. Not that it's weakened, it's kind of held its own, but winds still only at 90 miles per hour, and no strengthening is expected before it makes landfall. Here's the most important graphic. As a matter of fact, it sums it up perfectly. 7 p.m., there it is. Category 1 hurricane coming ashore, very close to Morgan City. And again, even if it wobbles a little bit to the east or to the west, obviously we're all going to be seeing the effects by the late afternoon and especially the evening. Tropical storm warning in effect for the North Shore in the metro. Hurricane warning in effect elsewhere. Areas in the red, that's where you're going to see the possibility and the likelihood of hurricane force winds, or at least wind gusts, tropical storm force winds in the areas that are shaded with the blue. Now let's show you the wind field. This is probably our most important graphic as we go through the afternoon. We're going to pause things here right about noon as the tropical storm force winds are approaching. Now, 3 o'clock, starting to feel those winds in excess of 39 miles per hour, at least some wind gusts. Morgan City, Chauvin, even Grand Isle by about 4 or 5 o'clock. Here we are right around dinner time, 6 o'clock, just before. The center of it is going to make landfall probably again, very close to Morgan City. Hurricane force winds there. Lutcher, get ready. By 7, 8 o'clock, hurricane force winds for you. Even in Hammond, I think we could have a gust up close to 75 miles per hour. But we're pausing things here at 9 o'clock because look at this. Majority of our viewing area, either seeing hurricane force or close to hurricane force winds, or the area in the yellow, those are tropical storm force winds. That's going to continue till about 1, 2 a.m., but by about 6, 7 a.m., most of the significant wind is going to be done, and actually by Thursday afternoon, it's going to get a little, well, it's going to stay breezy. The wind's going to be dying down, but as the skies clear out a little bit, may actually be a comfortable afternoon Thursday. Let me show you the rain very quickly, because obviously the rain's getting heavier at the noon hour. A lot of heavy rain, but look at this. This is what's going to be moving in by 1, 2, 3 o'clock. 3 o'clock, you don't want to be driving in any of this on the South Shore, and then it's going to make its way up toward the lake, up toward the North Shore. Obviously, very wet weather here at 6 o'clock. 9 o'clock, still wet weather, but it looks like then the heaviest rain shifting to the North Shore, and then the rain by 1, 2, 3 in the morning starting to exit. That should be it as far as the rain goes as we get to about 6 o'clock in the morning. Here we are, 6:30 on Thursday. Majority of the significant rain to the north of us. Team coverage continues. Here is meteorologist Raven Rashad.
All right, yeah, let's talk more about those winds that you were just mentioning. So more specifically, look how things are going for us. So this is going to cause a lot of the water offshore to be pushed onto the shore. That's why storm surge is a concern for us. So I'll just take you through time here a little bit. Here's 2 p.m. Some of the wind gusts, 32 miles per hour over in Houma, Galliano, looking at 58. Grand Isle looking at 58 as well. But as we continue to progress, here's 3 p.m. Still seeing those strong winds, and this is also when I'm expecting a lot of that flooding, a lot of that storm surge to pose issues. And then we get to 5 p.m. still looking at this. Look at Grand Isle, Galliano, looking at 60 miles per hour for those gusts, expecting gusts to be even more, maybe even the lakefront looking at 70 miles per hour for those gusts. And this continues on. Here's early Thursday morning. It's still breezy. By this time, a lot of the rain starting to move out of the area. But look at that. Still going to be a windy morning for you, especially if folks do have to get out, get back going to work. I know a lot of places still closed for Thursday. And then as we get later into the day, things will start to get better. But for today, still looking at the slight risk for seeing some severe weather. Main impacts, though, for us going to be flooding. And we do have that threat for tornadoes. So that's not ruled out yet. National Weather Service in New Orleans has not yet issued a tornado watch, but that could soon come. We'll keep you checked on that. And then as far as flash flooding goes, we are looking at a risk for that. Absolutely. Just because of all the rain we're expecting to get. Looking at about 4 to 8 inches in most places, maybe even higher than that, especially right around the coastal areas. Storm surge warning in effect for everyone. So you're down by Plaquemines Parish, looking at about 4 to 4+ feet. As far as that storm surge goes, could get up to 12 in some areas. Lake Pontchartrain looking at about 5 feet of storm surge. So keep that in mind, though. That's absolutely going to play a major factor, especially as we do get some strong winds in here too. So we'll keep you updated on that. But as of right now, still under those hurricane warnings and tropical storm warnings, as well as we get ever so closer to landfall, guys.
Playing the waiting game right now, Raven. That's the biggest thing so far, because, you know, Hurricane Francine is set to make landfall later on this evening. I heard Jim and Raven talk about, you know, around dinner time, we're expecting it. So right now we're playing a big wait and see game. But while we're waiting for this hurricane to make landfall, we've been experiencing some of those outer bands, a lot of rain. We saw Cassie Sherman's live shot last hour, some rain and a lot of wind in some parts of Southeast Louisiana. So you definitely want to be careful as you're making your way out, making those final preparations before the hurricane makes landfall.
Yeah, and on the South Shore, obviously, they're going to feel the effects of Francine first, just because they are closer to the coast. Our friends on the North Shore have just a little more time, obviously, because they're a little bit farther away from the coast. I believe we have a parish president of St. Tammany Parish, Mike Cooper, joining us live via Zoom. Parish president, thank you so much for your time. Can you just give us an update on where things stand with you all right now?
Thank you, Morgan. And I want to thank Jim and Raven for that comprehensive weather report. That's really helpful to our citizens. We're at our Emergency Operations Center this morning. We activated first thing this morning. All of our partners are here with us, DOTD, law enforcement, emergency medical, fire, public works, and all of our partners that are important to us as we prepare for a storm, and also as we plan to respond after the storm first thing tomorrow morning. We're, as has been reported through your weather reports, we know what type of storm we have coming. We've advised our citizens to be aware of storm surge along Lake Pontchartrain and the rivers that lead into the lake, and also to be cognizant of the fact that our tall pine trees are subject to break and bend during storms like this with high tropical wind gusts and even possible hurricane wind gusts. So our citizens are prepared. We're prepared. We ask and have been asking them to stay off of the roadways and highways during this time, as we expect the weather to come in later this afternoon.
Mr. President, really quickly, I'm going to play messenger for you real fast. Raven Richard and Jim Sion say, thank you, sir. Really appreciate it. I want to go back to some of your concerns. You talked about the storm surge. You could potentially in your area see between 4 to 6 feet when it comes to storm surge. For you, what is your biggest concern right now? Is it the storm surge? Is it the heavy winds, the heavy rains? Right now, what is your biggest concern for your area?
Well, that is a big concern. Of course, that's beyond our control. But the storm surge along Lake Pontchartrain causes water to overtop the bankment in Mandeville on the beautiful lakefront that they have. Also in Madisonville, water pushes up the Tchefuncte River. Bayou Liberty, Bayou Bonfaka, and Bayou Lacombe are threatened with water moving inland, and also just the low-lying areas where people live and where businesses are located. That is a threat. And along with heavy rains, it makes it difficult for water to drain. So we're used to this. We don't welcome it, but we are used to it, and we advise our citizens to be aware of that. And if they fear that they may be unable to get out of their homes after heavy rains and the inundation of water from the lake, they may want to prepare to move to higher land or to move to stay with friends and family during this time. Once we hunker down, it'll be difficult to go out and to address these issues.
Parish President, flooding obviously always a big concern in parts of St. Tammany Parish. I'm wondering about power outages, how concerned and then also prepared you all are. I know yesterday during your news conference, CLECO representatives were there. I assume you're still in close contact with them. Do you feel confident that if power goes out, you'll be able to respond to that quickly?
Well, that is a concern, and we're actually served by CLECO, Washington, St. Tammany Electric, and Entergy. We have our three providers, and we have been in touch with all three. They are all prepared with assets spaced strategically around our parish and are ready to respond right after the storm clears. But in order for them to get through, we have what we call our push and debris contractors ready to move trees, limbs out of the roadway, so our emergency medical vehicles, our law enforcement, and our utility contractors can get through so that they can immediately start, when it's safe to do so, restoring power.
St. Tammany Parish President Mike Cooper. Mr. President, thank you so much for joining us. I know that you and your team are working around the clock, informing folks in your area, in your parish, what's going on minute by minute, and definitely giving them a lot of warnings ahead of this hurricane making landfall. Really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us. Thank you so much, and we definitely want you and your team to stay safe.
Thank you. Stay safe, St. Tammany.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Parish President Mike Cooper. They're always such a great resource for us to keep us updated on the North Shore. And maybe from the North Shore, we'll come back down to the South Shore, staying on Lake Pontchartrain. We want to go out to one of our horse correspondents, Emily Maha, who is joining us live along the lakefront with a look at the current conditions there. Emily, what are you seeing?
Oh, Morgan, right now we are seeing the rain coming down. We are feeling a little bit of the wind, but nothing nearly as strong as what we expect to see in the hours coming. Like you mentioned, we're right off of Lake Pontchartrain. I want to give you a look. You can see the water starting to kick up against the steps along Lakeshore Drive, a popular spot for people to come out and enjoy the beautiful views out here. But you can see that water starting to make its way up. We know city officials here in New Orleans recommending that advisory coming out, going into effect at 11 o'clock, just a few few minutes ago. They're asking people to stay home. Now is the time to shelter in place. Go inside, hang out there, and just ride this one out. Stay off the roads. That's another concern for a lot of the officials out here right now. We've seen a number of law enforcement agencies posted up along Lakeshore Drive, keeping an eye on things. But again, we are seeing the rain. We are seeing the wind, not nearly as strong as what we're expecting in the hours to come, but it is starting to pick up since this morning. Again, that shelter in place advisory going into effect at 11 o'clock, just in the last 10 to 15 minutes or so, asking people to stay home, stay off the roads, give first responders the space to do the job that they need to do when the time starts to come. Overall, things looking pretty good here right now, but as we know, that can change as Hurricane Francine moves in closer. Reporting live, I'm Emily Maha. I'll send it back to you in the studio.
Emily, thank you so much. We want to now move over to transportation. Right now, we just received an alert from Nola Reddy. Ahead of Francine, RTA is shifting to bus transit services only starting at noon. Ferry and streetcar operations will remain suspended until further notice. This is as folks are preparing for this hurricane to make landfall.
And that is good to know about the streetcar service stopping at noon, because obviously neutral ground parking restrictions were lifted late last night. They will be those restrictions lifted, I should say, until 6 p.m. tomorrow. So that means you no longer have to be worried about, the streetcar coming through, but still do not block, obviously, the streetcar sidewalks, because we want to be careful when those services do return. So again, as you said, it's just the bus service starting at noon today.
Yeah. And also, you are an expert when it comes to knowing about the streetcars.
I love a streetcar, hurricane or not. Another announcement we want to let you know about, we've been telling you all morning about the flight board at MSY and how we were really expecting this to happen. And if you take a live look here from flymsy.com, you can see everything that isn't leaving New Orleans in the next few minutes has been canceled, both departures and arrivals. So you can see that if you were planning to fly out of New Orleans today, or maybe you had somebody who was thinking about flying in today, they most likely will not. A lot of people probably wondering about tomorrow. We don't know yet.
You know what's interesting? I just thought about this. One of my close friends, it was actually supposed to fly in for his birthday to New Orleans today.
Not now.
He said, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "Oh, we just have a hurricane coming this way."
Yeah. So if you are heading to the airport, probably
Yeah.
just go ahead and head back home. I don't think your flight is heading out today, but if there are any updates, changes, obviously over the next 24 to 48 hours, we'll let you know. And I do believe now we're just being told by our producers that we're being joined by Congressman Troy Carter, obviously here to talk to us more about the federal response to Hurricane Francine. Obviously, I know this is a little bit early, Congressman, but can you just talk about kind of the resources the federal government is able to offer in a case like this?
Well, we have boots and ready to be on the ground. As you know, the governor sent in a letter of a request for declaration of emergency. Our congressional delegation has sent a letter to the White House asking that be expedited to make sure that resources are readily, so we're not waiting after the storm. We are in communication with the Governor's Office of Homeland Security, Mayor's Office of Homeland Security, as well as the National Guard, to make sure that all resources are available. We've sent out multiple notices with helpful hints and websites and information to call for resources in case of power outages. We have community lighthouses that are up and running for cooling places. We know how warm it is, to make sure that people have access to every possible resource during and after the storm.
Congressman, this is Daryl Forges here. Thank you so much for joining us. I remember a few days ago, you tweeted out saying that you wrote a bipartisan letter to FEMA asking for FEMA's disaster relief fund to be replenished. What's the latest on that, especially now since we're in the midst of the height of hurricane season? What have you heard when it comes to the possibility of FEMA getting their funds replenished?
We're hopeful that Speaker Johnson will bring a bill to the floor to give us a full budget. Hopefully between today and tomorrow is our hope. Embodied in that would be the ability to refund our emergency fund to make sure that we are prepared. The good news is, even if that doesn't happen in the next day or two, we have enough resources in the fund to manage this catastrophe, but we will have to hurriedly get it passed in advance of any other storms that are coming. So we're hopeful that Speaker Johnson will call us to a vote in the next day or two to get that done.
And Congressman Carter, we've heard a lot of frustration from local and state leaders just about feeling like sometimes there's so much red tape you have to jump through with the federal government. What can be done to try to help these folks who are, really struggling in the days after a storm and just need help?
Well, it's a lot better than it was. Certainly not as good as we want it to be, but we have worked tirelessly with FEMA to cut through some of that red tape to make some of those things that should have been common sense that in fact were not corrected, so people have ease with accessing resources, that they should not have insult added to injury because of the bureaucracy of government. So we continue to attack those bit by bit. We've had very meaningful discussions with the FEMA administrator who's visited New Orleans multiple times, who's been before our Committee on Homeland Security multiple times, to make sure that we are modifying and reviewing the Stafford Act, the act that allows us to provide federal resources and so on, to make sure that we are fixing what in many cases is antiquated documents to make it current with today's needs of our constituents.
Congressman Troy Carter, I know that your heart is here in Southeast Louisiana for your district, for people that you know very well here, to make sure everyone's staying safe. But right now, you got to get to work. You got a lot going on there up in Washington as session has come back. And I know you talked about hopefully they'll be able to replenish those FEMA funds in DC, and they're working hard to get whatever you can. But thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And really thinking about the folks in your district and all across this area, hoping that everyone will be okay as the storm passes.
Thank you both for giving us the opportunity. We're going to be monitoring this storm very, very closely, and we'll jump on a plane at a moment's notice if it's needed. The most important is we'll be working to make sure that federal funds are available immediately.
We really appreciate your commitment to Southeast Louisiana, sir. Thank you for joining us. And 11:18, I think we'll head to break briefly and then come back. We do have much more coming up. We have a press conference from the governor scheduled for 11:30. Orleans Parish City leaders at noon, and then we hope to hear from St. Tammany at 2. So you can see right now we are raising money for hurricane relief with a partnership with the United Way. Just scan that QR code on your screen if you would like to help. And again, we're going to take a brief break. We'll be back with more of our coverage of Hurricane Francine after the break.
informed and safe when it comes to what's to come when Hurricane Francine makes landfall.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot coming up in the next hour or so. Like I said, at 11:30, we're expecting to hear from Governor Jeff Landry. Then around noon, we are hoping to hear from the city of New Orleans officials about their preparations for Hurricane Francine. And then at 2, St. Tammany Parish officials planning to give us another update. But first, I'm sure what you all want to know is, where is Francine? Has its track changed any? Has the strength changed any? Let's send it right over to meteorologist Jim Sine for a check of that.
Well, right now, Francine is about 150 miles away from Morgan City, 150 miles southwest. I say Morgan City because it looks like right around 7 o'clock, the center of the storm may be coming ashore right in Morgan City. Now, here's WDSU first warning radar. Actually, this isn't just our radar site. It's a composite of a number of radar sites. But now you can see, obviously, here's the center of circulation. Heaviest rain's starting to move in, and there's more rain out here in the Gulf of Mexico. It's too far out for us to really detect with the radar, but rain is just going to be getting heavier as we go through the morning now into the later afternoon and then the early evening. But let's show you the wave heights. We have so many graphics, and I apologize if we overwhelm you with graphics, but we just want to give you all the information that we have available to us. Right now, 20-foot wave heights right near the center. And speaking of the center, we had information from the National Hurricane Center. There's an oil rig that was located just about 10 miles north of the center. They reported sustained winds at 85 miles per hour, which makes sense because right now maximum winds are 90. They reported a wind gust of 101. Let me show you these too. The wave heights as we get close to shore, anywhere from 5 to 7 feet. Again, that's about 10 miles out in the open waters, but this is what's ahead for us later on this afternoon. Tropical storm force wind field, you see it here in the orange, about 40 miles off the coastline. And I tell you, the timing on this system has pretty much held true over the last 36 hours. We said, do all your preparations on Tuesday, ride out the storm on Wednesday. Well, you might still have an hour or two to do your last preparations, but I wouldn't recommend it. Once we get past noon across the board, you're going to have to deal with this rain, which is only going to get heavier. And as the wind increases, you're going to get some of that sideways rain, which is no fun to drive in, obviously. Look at this heavy rain making its way up toward Cutoff, Grand Isle, Boothville, all across the entire area right now, and it's only going to get heavier. Let's look at the North Shore, because actually the North Shore, since early this morning, has seen some of the more impressive rainfall totals. Covington, Mandeville, Slidell, off and on rain for you, getting heavier probably in the next 45 minutes. Here's the New Orleans area, the metro as we sometimes call it. Here's more heavy rain, probably moving towards Slidell in the next hour. And then here's the heaviest rain out in the Gulf being drawn up by Francine. Homa, yep, about in the next 10 to 15 minutes, you're going to get wet again. Now, here are the current winds, and they're not all that impressive just yet. That's going to be changing in the next 2, 3, 4 hours. Maximum winds right now, highest wind that we see is 20 miles per hour in Kenner. But look at these wind gusts up close to 30 miles per hour. And again, as Francine gets closer, winds are going to get stronger. As a matter of fact, I'll show you the wind field coming up here in just a minute. Now, Francine, at about 1 o'clock this morning when I came in, was getting a little better organized. And I'll be honest with you, when we got the 4 o'clock advisory, they said it was going to be a Category 2 storm by the early afternoon. And I was concerned about the possibility that as it got close to the coast, 5, 6 o'clock, that it could maybe get a little bit stronger. Well, what happened, and what we anticipated, has actually happened. Drier air is mixing in, and the wind shear, which the Hurricane Center has been talking about, I think that's helping to keep this system a little less organized. It's definitely keeping it from getting significantly stronger. There it is, 150 miles, almost directly southwest of Morgan City as of the last advisory. Here's that dry air. Boy, oh boy, that is very dry air for this time of year, all throughout Texas, making its way into the Gulf. That's a good thing, obviously. This graphic really sums up how today is going to play out. 7 o'clock, 90 mile per hour winds. Right here is a Category 1 hurricane coming ashore very close to Morgan City. That doesn't mean that Morgan City is the only one that's going to see the weather. As a matter of fact, by 9 o'clock, I think everyone's going to have tropical storm force winds in place. We have a tropical storm warning in effect for the North Shore, the metro. We have that hurricane warning in effect as you go farther to the west and to the south. Areas in red, you're going to have hurricane force winds by late this afternoon and this evening. Areas in the blue, tropical storm force winds. That pretty much sums it up as far as the winds go. And this gives you an idea when the winds are going to be moving in. The yellow right here, you see it. 39 to 74 miles per hour, even at the noon hour, just starting to see those tropical storm force winds make their way on shore. By 3 o'clock, again, that's why we told you have all the preparations done. you don't want to be driving anywhere. Morgan City, Chauvin, Grand Isle. That rain is going to be getting heavier as well as the winds getting stronger. And here, obviously, are the hurricane force winds. Look at this, 6 o'clock, just before it's about to come on shore. Morgan City, obviously, some gusts over 75 miles per hour. And as we get to 7 and 8 o'clock, sustained winds over 75 miles per hour. You know, Hammond, you're on the North Shore, but I have the feeling as it takes this track, you could get a wind gust here in excess of 75 miles per hour. Obviously, at about 9 o'clock, actually from 9 to about 1, 2 in the morning, a good majority of the viewing area seeing tropical storm force winds before the system starts to lose its tropical characteristics, moves farther to the north, and then the winds should be diminishing. Maybe tropical storm force winds for the extreme North Shore at 6 a.m., but Thursday, definitely an improving weather day. Team coverage continues. Here's meteorologist Raven Richard. I'm getting tired. How about you?
Yes, I am. I got an energy drink over there. We'll
Good.
pop that open here soon. Hey, do you want to touch on the rain totals? So basically, just to sum this up, looking at a good 4 to 8 inches in general for folks, but just a few places. Looking at Homa, very likely you could get more than 8 inches of rain. You've already had a lot over the past 7 days. Adding more to those totals, well, that will just bring you more flood issues. That is expected for today. Also, your winds are going to be whipping for today. Could have gusts up to 100, even a little more than that. Kenner could have about 7 inches of rain. So this is just within the next 24 to 36 hours for us. So expect these totals to possibly be higher. But on top of this, we're talking about the storm surge as well. That's going to play a big factor in all of this as well. So I do want to break down the winds one more time for you, just to put this all into motion. You can find your city and see just how windy it's going to be. Here's right at noon. So 30 minutes from now, you're looking at wind speeds possibly almost up to 40 down in Homa. This continues on. 50 up in Kenner, very possible. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. And all of this does depend on the track that this continues to take. So if this shifts over more to the east or more to the west, this right here will change. Look at Homa, 72 miles per hour for those wind gusts. That's for this evening. We'll continue to watch this and monitor this for you. Guys?
All right, Raven, thank you. And we have been promising you that Governor Landry was going to speak about Hurricane Francine. I believe that's happening right now.
Let's take it there right now.
Sure that you have your important documents secure and in a safe place, preferably in a waterproof bag or container, such as birth certificates, social security cards, insurance policies, and etc. So we want you to make your preparations and stay informed. And GOSEP will continue to provide updates as we monitor the storm's progress. Again, if you can go to your app store, if you have not yet, and downloaded the GetAGamePlan.org app, we encourage you to do so as well. At this time, I'd like to bring up our GOSEP Director, Jacques Thibodeau.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, real quick for everyone, the time to evacuate has now passed. It is the time to go to ground and hunker down. We are now no longer in the prepare for a hurricane. We are now in the respond for a hurricane or to a hurricane. So what I'd like to do is to take a quick moment and highlight the fact that we've been working in a partnership with FEMA for the past 3 days. We have our Region 6 Director, Tony Robinson, is here, and he's going to say a few words, and then we're going to turn it over to Jay Grimes to give you a quick weather update, and we're going to talk about how you respond to the initial effects of a storm. So, Tony?
Thank you, Jacques. Thank you, Governor. As Jacques said, we've been working very closely with GOSEP for the last several days. We've got teams on site. We've got commodities here like water, meals ready to eat, generators that are ready to deploy out, working with GOSEP. We'd really like you to do what the governor said. Take this storm seriously. It is a serious storm. Your final action should be complete, and now is the time to hunker down and ride the storm out. Follow the instructions of your local officials. The president did declare an emergency yesterday based on the governor's request. That provides the assistance that the locals and states may need for commodities, resources, and some reimbursement. So I just want everybody to know that really is for the governments right now to be able to help them make sure that we're taking life-sustaining, life-supporting actions. We'll continue to work closely with the state and GOSEP on being prepared for the storm, whatever resources are needed post-storm, and do some assessments to be able to determine what other federal assistance may be needed. Thank you.
Jay, quick update.
So we know that the landfall will be later this afternoon into the evening hours, but I want to remind everybody that the first wave of tropical storm force winds aren't that far away. They'll probably begin to move in on the coastline soon after midday. And behind that, by just a couple of hours, that first line of hurricane force winds. So even though landfall is later today, as gentlemen have already said, it's time to go ahead and sit down and take your place and ride out this storm. The little bit of good news here is that the storm should move through relatively quickly. Most of the impacts should be out of the state by or soon after midnight. And we're also looking at a little bit of a reduction in the rainfall totals with the storm system as well. All that said, this is still going to be a serious weather event between now and midnight tonight. So go ahead, take your precautions, finish up the last of your preparations, and ride it out today.
Okay, State Fire Marshal, sir.
Good morning. Thank you, Jock. Governor, we're going to talk about generator safety today. And, we always talk about this issue because it is an issue. Make sure that when you use a portable generator, you keep it away from the windows and away from the exterior of the house and the openings of the house. Be sure that you always keep it 15 to 20 feet away from those windows and those doors. Before fueling it, make sure you turn it off and let it cool for 15 to 20 minutes. Never use it during the storm. Use it after the storm. Make sure you have a fire extinguisher close by, and make sure that you have your carbon monoxide detector working and in order. This is very important. We lose people every hurricane because of this issue. Please adhere to those restrictions and warnings. Thank you.
Sir, could you please say your name?
Brian Adams.
Okay, Louisiana National Guard, Wildlife and Fisheries on our search and rescue prep.
Hey, good morning. Since Monday, the Louisiana National Guard has been mobilizing and deploying across the coastal parishes of Louisiana to respond to the hurricane. And based on the track of the storm moving east, as of yesterday evening, we started repositioning our forces to the southeast and south central Louisiana. We currently have over 2,300 guardsmen on mission, and we'll continue to mobilize forces to reach approximately 2,500 total strength before the storm strikes. The Louisiana National Guard is supporting civil authorities and other agencies, and we'll continue these efforts with a focus on search and rescue. To assist with that potential search and rescue mission, operationally right now we have 58 boats and 101 high water vehicles in the area of operations. We also have now 61 aircraft in the aviation task force. Our air coordination cell here at GOSEP is working with other federal and state partners such as the U.S. Coast Guard and the Louisiana State Police to synchronize air search and rescue assets and operations. We also have other assets that are in reserve to include 29 additional boats and over 270 additional high water vehicles. We've pre-staged 14 route clearance teams across 7 parishes to assist with debris removal and clearing roads for our first responders can respond to the storm. Additionally, the Louisiana National Guard has liaison officer teams supporting numerous parishes across the state. Overall, our mission is to support the state, parish, and local partners is to save lives, mitigate suffering, protect property, and assist in rapid transition to normal operations. We are working in coordination with our neighboring states, the National Guard Bureau, U.S. NORTHCOM for contingency planning of additional forces as we continue to assess the storm. The Louisiana National Guard is prepared and equipped to respond to the hurricane. Our training prepares us for this mission, and we are ready. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The Department of Wildlife and Fisheries has a long history of working with both the Louisiana National Guard and Louisiana State Police in events like this. We currently have 150 agents fully prepared with both rescue trucks and rescue vessels to go into any needed areas, as well as our MSRT teams ready to do mission-ready recon missions when they need to go into the areas post-storm. Thank you.
Okay, we're gonna have Joe Donahue from DOTD and Colonel Hodges from State Police to talk about the situation of the roads as well as the public safety aspect.
Thank you. Good morning. Joe Donahue from DOTD. We are monitoring the current situations. There are currently 4 roads in the state that are closed due to either rising water or closed floodgates. And I just also want to remind everyone that after the storm passes, that does not mean the danger is over. We will be sending crews out to clear roadways from debris and to monitor for flooding. But do not drive through standing or running water. Keep an eye out for downed power lines and always keep safety first. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. LSP has over 400 troopers active across the state, with the additional personnel available and on standby, ready to respond to storm-related issues. Troops in affected areas are operating on double shifts to increase uniform patrol presence throughout the state. As road and travel conditions are affected, all updates will be available through the 511 travel information system at 511-1a.org. Dial 511 from your mobile phone or telephone or through the Louisiana 511 mobile app. To report stalled vehicles on the interstate or roadways, star 577 or star LSP from your cell phone. It'll track you to your nearest troop location so that way we can respond accordingly. We urge residents in Southeast Louisiana specifically to comply with your local evacuation orders and take all precautions to keep you and your family safe. Motorists should avoid all unnecessary travel and be mindful of curfew restrictions in their local communities. As the governor said and the other state officials, please follow the rules and regulations that your parish and local leaders have put in place and remain inside. This is a time right now when no one should be out on the roadways. Additionally, our troopers are ready and fully prepared to respond, but need everyone's help to ensure the safety of our communities. Please check on your loved ones, check on those who are most in need by telephone to make sure that they have everything they need, so when the storm does pass and we move into the next phase of our operation, that you know where they are and that they were safe prior to it hitting the coast this afternoon. Thank you.
Governor. Yeah, again, a couple of things. Again, want to thank Tony and FEMA, the FEMA administrator, Cresswell, and the White House for responding to Louisiana's needs and giving us that pre-landfall declaration. We look forward to working with them as we move into the post-storm recovery on tomorrow. Again, we're going to be putting out also for the press, we're going to be putting out some information because I know that you have had some questions on shelters. I would remind y'all that initial sheltering is always a local responsibility and that they put it out. If statewide shelters are going to be operational, we will get y'all that information as well. Again, I would urge residents to take the necessary steps of preparing for the storm to come. It is on our doorstep as we speak. Remember, after the storm is over, please remain in place. As you heard from all of these agencies, we are going to have a lot of people on the roadway that is necessary to put the vital infrastructure back in place so that you can go about your daily lives. We have checked with our utility partners. We feel like they pre-position the assets necessary to help them. Jay is going to give us some great information, hopefully tomorrow, that the winds will die down real fast so that the utility crews can get up and on those lines. Because remember, they have a wind restriction as you know, if the wind exceeds 30 miles an hour, they can't repair the line. So we're hoping that this storm passes fast enough through the state and we can get all those utility trucks and DOTD and our first responders on the roadway. But again, we urge our citizens to stay off the roadway if you are not inside of that critical needs, vital labor force. And with that, we'll take any questions that y'all may have.
This one is for DOTD. You guys mentioned ways that are closed. Are any of those in our direct area?
So if you're referring to the capital region, the answer is no. There's St. Mary Parish and more of the coastal parishes, Cameron and Vermilion. Yeah, thank you.
Could you be a little bit more specific about which road closures there are?
I certainly can. Let me bring my notes up here. So we've got, I know it's 317 in St. Mary Parish, which was requested by the locals. We also have LA 45, a portion of it in Jefferson Parish, LA 3147 in Vermilion, and then LA 27 in Cameron.
And I'd also remind you, I think on DOTD's app and website,
511, which was mentioned. That's correct.
These road closures actually posted there as well. So I would encourage the press to monitor DOTD's app. They do a great job of updating those road closures and any issues that we have with the infrastructure in almost real time. Yes, Julie.
Are you all coordinating at all with the Cajun Navy? What role do you expect, if any, do you expect them to play? And I wonder, Governor, if you've talked to the president.
Oh, I have not spoken directly to the president, but I have spoken to the FEMA administrator. I've spoken to Major General Peoples with the Corps of Engineers. We have been working with our congressional delegation, the entire delegation. In fact, we actually invited the congressional delegation staff into the UCG meeting so that they could participate as well. And I am fully confident that our federal partners are working very well with the state agencies, and our local partners are doing a great job as well.
Okay, as far as the Cajun Navy, all of the volunteer organizations active during a disaster, it's called VOAD is the acronym for it, are all a major element of GOSEP. We meet with them quarterly to include the elements of the Cajun Navy as well as ground force, which is another element. So we do talk to them throughout the year, every quarter, and they're always involved and integral in our process. It's just one more tool in our toolbox that we always use in every disaster.
All right, any more questions?
Regarding sheltering, has the state mega shelter had any requests from the locals to take in any of that overflow yet?
We have not. We have not. Why, do you know of any?
I'm asking you, Governor.
Well, no, I know you asked me like you might have known. We don't. We have no information today that there's any requests.
No, Doc and I both have not received any requests from a parish.
Yep.
Yesterday, you told us that there were just a handful of people relocated from nursing homes. Have there been any more evacuations from nursing homes?
Yesterday, we mentioned Vermilion had moved 8. The only update, Luling has moved 2 to Metairie. Other than that, everything's going well.
All right, any more questions? Yep.
I'd like to ask Jay, does it look like the storm of the eye is headed more toward the east now, jogging more toward New Orleans?
The shift that we saw in the storm track yesterday came to an end during the afternoon and evening. And since yesterday afternoon, yesterday evening, there's been no appreciable shift to the east. So even if we see a minor jog between now and landfall, it's not likely to be sufficient enough to greatly endanger New Orleans beyond the state that they're currently in.
Okay, any last questions?
What role do we see the Red Cross playing? Have you guys been in contact with them?
Yeah, we had the Red Cross was in our UCG. I don't see any deviation from what we've done in the past. We certainly want to add our faith-based organizations that have been interwoven into GOSEP as well. And so lastly, look, I want to thank the citizens of the state. I think that all of y'all, everyone out there has been great as we prepare for this particular storm. Again, I would caution our citizens that just because it is a category 1 or possibly a category 2 doesn't mean it's just going to be a thunder bumper, right? I know that we have been through a lot here in Louisiana. Again, I urge everyone to take the necessary preparations. If you're in the storm's pathway, to understand that you may be without utilities for some time. And so to go ahead and make those necessary arrangements, we look forward to keeping information available through our getAGamePlan.org app and also through our different various agencies and through GOSEP. Jacques, anything?
No.
Okay, thank you.
And you just heard Governor Jeff Landry in his press conference with other state officials talking, basically saying, hey, look, this hurricane is basically at our doorstep. The main focus for them right now is saying, hey, look, if you've already gotten your stuff done or still thinking about it, hey, go ahead and get it done now, because the shift really needs to be towards sheltering in place, making sure you're hunkering down wherever you decide to go to a shelter or you decide to stay home. That should be the main focus, because for them later on, their main focus is going to be bringing out generators, the post-recovery after this hurricane passes us and makes landfall.
Yeah, those state officials, putting it pretty bluntly, they said we have transitioned from the preparation mode to now the response mode. So that means they really want people, as you said, Daryl, to be inside their homes. There are just a couple figures that stood out to me during that press conference that I'd like to pass along. When we had parish president in Jefferson Parish, Cynthia Lee Shang, on, she mentioned speaking with the National Guard. We heard during that update from the governor that 2,500 National Guardsmen are being deployed across Louisiana, specifically South Louisiana. We're told they have 58 boats, 101 high water vehicles, and their main focus will be search and rescue if that is necessary. We certainly hope it's not, but they are standing and ready to go. 150 agents additionally from Wildlife and Fisheries Department able to help if needed. And then 400 state troopers are active across the state currently. So certainly the state of Louisiana, from a state response, taking this very seriously. And that's something that we are really happy to hear as we all brace for Francine.
Yeah, that's the big thing right now. And a lot of these parishes at this point, they're really focused on making sure their folks are staying safe ahead of this storm. That's why places like Lafourche Parish, and 12 minutes from now, a curfew will be put in place in Lafourche Parish. 12 minutes from now, okay? So right at noon. So if you have anything you need to do in Lafourche Parish, hey, wrap it up, because after noon, it's going to be a curfew from noon until sunrise tomorrow. And that's where you find Elizabeth Kubel, who's there. She spoke with the parish president there and others as they're getting prepared for Hurricane Francine to make landfall.
Hey, yeah, I am in Lafourche Parish right now, where the rain has really picked up as the morning has started to go on. We got here in the overnight hours, and there really wasn't even a raindrop coming down at that time. But as we've gone into these late morning, early afternoon hours, we have certainly seen the rain really pick up. And with that, the message from parish leaders, the parish president, is to take the time in the morning to get all of your last minute storm preparations done, because time is running out here. They wanted you to use these early daylight hours to do any last minute preps that you needed, any last minute preps on your home, anything that you needed to pick up from the store or the grocery store. But remember that time is really closing in, because there is a curfew that is going in effect in Lafourche Parish. It starts at noon. It will lift the following day, Thursday, at sunrise. Law enforcement, the parish sheriff's office, has told me that is really because they want to keep people safe. They want to keep you safe. They're putting this curfew in effect not to restrict you, but they really just want to make sure that you stay safe and hunker down as we ride out Francine. And not only that, they also want to make sure that the roads are clear in case there are any first responders that need to get immediately to a scene that requires their attention. They want to make sure that no one else really is on the roads blocking their way from getting there immediately. That is the very latest here from Lafourche Parish, again, as we brace for that noon curfew that is going into effect 12 noon and lifting the following day, Thursday, at sunrise. Reporting in Lafourche Parish, I'm Elizabeth Kubel, WDSU News. Back to you.
And that curfew is rapidly approaching. We are now 10 minutes away from that curfew being put in place. So once again, if you're in Lafourche Parish, it's time to wrap it up and go home, because that curfew is being put in place in just a few.
Another place that certainly has a curfew, a mandatory evacuation order, actually is Grand Isle. I believe we have a camera to show you here of the current conditions. You can obviously see what looks like that burrito levee in the foreground, and then very choppy water in the background. There is a reason that they declared a mandatory evacuation order. Obviously, it is outside of levee protection, and also we know it is really the front lines whenever we have a storm come, Daryl, and you can see that water really looking angry, you could say, as Francine gets closer and closer to the Louisiana coast. It will be one of the first places where we'll really be able to see the impacts of Francine. And currently, it looks like conditions are worsening there.
It looks real choppy out there. I need to double check with our weather team, but I do believe that that area of Grand Isle could see potentially up to 10 feet, 9 to 10 feet in storm surge because of this hurricane. So that's why it's important, y'all, to make sure you hunker down and you be safe, because at this point now we're starting to get that different level now of the conditions are going to start getting a little bit worse as time goes along. And before you know it, around like 3, 4, 5 o'clock, and then it's going to make landfall later on this evening, that's when conditions are really going to be at its peak.
And we saw Anum Siddiqui, who's been doing great live shots, bringing us incredible pictures all morning long from Jean Lafitte, another area that is no stranger to bearing the brunt of these storms as they come through. She is nearing the end of her shift. She's worked very hard for us, making her way back closer here to the metro area. We want to check in with her in Gretna, where she's getting an update from officials on conditions and preparations there.
Parish President Cynthia Lee Shang is welcoming us into their emergency operations center. Can you please talk about your game plan and everything that goes on behind the scenes here in this back room?
Well, we've been activated here, fully activated for a couple of days now. And really, this is the hub for us in terms of response. We have all of our local departments that I oversee here with us. And so we're really able to understand what's going on from, top of a control perspective. And then we're thankful that all of our external partners that we get to work with, law enforcement and EMS and National Guard and Coast Guard have representatives here as well as Entergy, because we know, we expect this to be large electrical outages, and we're grateful that they put people in here with us as well.
Right. And you'll notice we're here with our rain boots. My t-shirt's a little wet because we're coming back from areas like Lafitte that are under emergency mandatory evacuations, but people there are still there. They're going to ride it out. What's the message for them, people in those areas and like Grand Isle who are riding out this storm?
Well, we called for a mandatory evacuation of those areas, so hopefully everybody is out. We are expecting life-threatening storm surge, so it's very dangerous to be, outside of the levee protection system. Hopefully everybody's in. But obviously our first responders will want to respond to call 911 in case of a life-threatening emergency. At some point, responders will not be able to get out, but they will triage and still call 911. And then importantly, to call this number, 504-349-5860. Is that the right number? 5360, 504-349-5360. If you have something in terms of like tree down or road blocking or some kind of public works need that you have. So.
And then there's also a shelter option too.
Yeah, so if you don't feel like your shelter is sturdy, and certainly for people in mobile homes or trailers, to go to our Terrytown playground at 641 Heritage. And we probably have 25 or 30 people there now. We'll give you cots and MREs, and we ask that you bring your food to stay more comfortable, and that we just want to make sure that you have a sturdy building to ride out the storm, and that if more people get there, we're prepared to expand and offer other locations.
Well, that's great. 25, 30 people taking advantage of that shelter. Is there a max cap that you all have? And if so, are you planning on opening another location?
Yes, we probably can house about 100 people there. And we do have other locations we'll announce if that gets too crowded, as well as on the East Bank. And then certainly post-storm, we will offer more sites depending on, and hopefully we don't have major consequences, but we certainly did that after Ida with Lafitte taking on so much water. Post-storm, we'll be prepared to offer more housing options for people in the interim.
Thank you so much for those updates. You all have been so great. I know we've been catching up with y'all all day, so really appreciate it. Again, those folks in those areas outside of the levee district, if you're riding out the storm and you need shelter, or if you're even staying in a trailer and you need a shelter, Terrytown location is still open with a lot of capacity. But for now, I'll send it back to you all in the studio.
And thank you. And I believe the one in Terrytown also accepts pets as well, which is good news right there. So, hey, if you need to go somewhere, time is of the essence. You need to go ahead and make a decision now or never.
That's right. And we are going to head to break, but we do want to let you know when we come back, we're awaiting an update from officials in New Orleans. So we will, of course, bring you that live as soon as it happens. And then we do want to remind you before we go to that commercial that we are joining together with the United Way, as we do after so many storms, to offer hurricane relief to our friends and neighbors who may need some help after Hurricane Francine moves through. You can see the QR code there on your screen by now. You know what to do. Open up your phone, camera, point it there, and that'll take you to a link where you can donate. You can also go to WDSU.com or the WDSU mobile app for more information. Stick with us. We'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
Craving a weekend retreat? Get ready to jet set to some of the coolest getaways across the country. We'll scream our sillies out as we zip line over a Carolina river.
Like you're flying.
Eat our body weight in pink frosting on the Cape.
Just shut up and have a mini.
And rest our weary strangers' beds.
Ooh.
Come join us on Eat, Play, Stay. Only on Very Local.
It's kind of cool to think that there are people who see what you're doing and think, oh, well, maybe whatever I thought was outside the box, maybe there is a place for that.
And just get out there and do it.
These are the incredible stories of our Maker Nation.
I'm going to consider moving now this has happened.
Stephanie! It's mind-boggling.
You know you're going to get you don't have pants. Who looks silly now?
Finding Adventure is back with a brand new season. I'm going to new cities and meeting new people. Find out what it's like when you get up, get out, and go find adventure. Finding Adventure, only on Very Local.
Just about noon here on your Wednesday. As you stick with us here on WDSU, we continue to track Hurricane Francine, getting an awful lot closer to southeast Louisiana, and we want to keep you updated. I'm Morgan Lentis.
And I'm Daryl Ford. There's so much to get to right now. For the past, several hours, we've been keeping you informed and up to date on Hurricane Francine's track, and also how folks all across southeast Louisiana are preparing for this storm to make landfall later on this evening. Our weather team have also been working around the clock, making sure you're informed and also staying safe. So let's go now to meteorologist Jim Sion with one of the latest on Hurricane Francine's path. And as of right now, Jim, hey, it's more of the same. The main focus right now is just to prepare and get ready.
Well, you're exactly right. Although once we get past about 2-3 o'clock, that's when we're really going to start to see deteriorating weather conditions. And we're already seeing some pretty heavy rain come in. The good news is it's just rain. It's not the wind that pushes it into that sideways rain that we often see during tropical events. Now, here's something that WDSU First Warning Radar is able to do. We're going out and we're looking in the Gulf of Mexico. Here's the tropical storm force wind field, about 30 miles off the coast. And obviously, as this system gets closer to us, and actually that data right there might be an hour old. I think it might be closer to like 20 miles off the coastline right now. Let me show you the wave heights. We actually had a report. National Hurricane Center issued a special statement about an hour ago. They said just north of the center, there was an oil rig that reported a wind gust of 101 miles per hour. Here are the wave heights, anywhere from 20 to 21 feet. And even now off the Louisiana coast, those wave heights starting to increase just a little bit. Now let's show you the rain in your neighborhood. WDSU First Warning Radar showing the rain. It's moving from the south to the north. Some of these showers are moving a little more northwest. But again, it feels very tropical outside, very humid. The wind is going to be increasing, kind of a light to moderate rain right now on the North Shore, but go farther to the south. That's where the heaviest rain is right now, especially here in the Gulf of Mexico. Moving up toward Boothville, Lafitte, Golden Meadow, Grand Isle. Obviously, you're going to be seeing more heavy rain over the next 3, 4, 5, 6 hours or so. Homa getting a little bit of a break, but that rain will come back in about an hour. Across the board, these showers going to be in place. They're going to get heavier, likely going to get more numerous, and the wind obviously is going to be increasing for us. Now, these are the current winds, and they really aren't that bad. Very manageable. As a matter of fact, it's kind of breezy, and if it's not raining in your neighborhood, it might feel kind of comfortable. Right now, the wind's at about 12 to 20 miles per hour at the lakefront, but again, as Francine gets closer, these winds are going to be increasing. Wind gusts in excess of 23. That's very manageable right now, but that's not going to be the case by late this afternoon and especially tonight. Here's the latest satellite view. Francine was looking a little more ragged about 3-4 hours ago or so, but the National Hurricane Center believes there are 2 things happening with Francine. And these were 2 things that we were talking about for the last day and a half, 2 days or so. First of all, there's some drier air working in, but secondly, and maybe more importantly, as it gets closer to land, stronger upper level winds. We have some wind shear in place. Now, the center of it, as of the last advisory, 150 miles from Morgan City. And we pick Morgan City because it looks like right around 7 o'clock, that's where the storm is likely to make landfall as a Category 1 hurricane. Here's the water vapor imagery, and I've been looking at this graphic closely for the last 2.5, 3 days because I knew there was going to be dry air in place. We've been tracking that dry air. But look at all that orange. That's not only dry air, that's very dry air, especially for this time of year to make it that far south all the way through Texas. Some of that dry air probably mixing in with the hurricane, keeping it is a Category 1. Winds right now at 90 miles per hour, not expected to get much stronger. Actually, let's see, that's the 12 o'clock advisory. Just got an update, but the winds are still at 90 miles per hour, moving to the northeast at 13 miles per hour. So little has changed and little is going to change, most likely, in the next 7 hours. But there you are, 7 o'clock. Category 1 hurricane likely coming ashore in Morgan City. Now, as we look toward this afternoon and especially this evening, tropical storm force winds expected in the areas that are shaded in the blue. Hurricane force winds or hurricane force wind gusts expected in the areas shaded in the red. That pretty much sums it up. This graphic gives you an idea when you could see tropical storm force winds in your neighborhood. By 3 o'clock, pausing things here, already starting to see some winds in excess of 40, 45 miles per hour. Morgan City, Chauvin, Grand Isle, once we get to about 4:30, 5 o'clock. Now, here we are, 6 o'clock. Hurricane coming ashore, Category 1, very close to Morgan City. This is the area where we're going to have hurricane force winds. We're going to have more weather coming up shortly right here on WDSU. Thank you for watching our coverage.
All right, Jim, thank you. And now, as promised, we want to take you live to City Hall, where New Orleans Mayor LaToya Cantrell and other city leaders are giving an update on Hurricane Francine.
Single day. Couldn't do it without the hardworking employees of city government and, of course, our partners here. Our city, as you know, we are resilient and we are ready in regards to the Hurricane Francine coming our way. Just my administration, all of our partners, we just continue to lean in and do the work. Very proud, just proud of the residents of the city of New Orleans. And as I moved around yesterday, even through the evening, the people, our people, they're listening. They're doing what we've asked them to do. And of course, we're just, again, we're ready. We're prepared. Our visitors as well, thank you so much. We did see an uptick even in those signing up for NOLA Ready alerts. As I mentioned on yesterday, because we have made solid and sound investments in our infrastructure, you know, we are prepared in much ways than we have ever been before. We know that Hurricane Francine is expected to make landfall along central Louisiana coast this evening as a Category 1. Impacts began last night and we know will last until tomorrow morning. Worst impacts for the city of New Orleans, and particularly our metro area, is expected this evening starting around 6 p.m. going through midnight. We're just continuing to urge all of our residents to shelter in place. This is the time, again, to hunker down. We're expecting heavy rainfall, gusty winds, and of course, the possibility of isolated tornado activity in the city. Again, as I say, now's the time to hunker down, staying off our roads. You demonstrated that you know what to do last night, and you're continuing to do that throughout the day. But we're wanting, again, to encourage you to hold the line, stay focused, and stay prepared. We're coordinating, as you know, with all of our partners, local, state, and federal. Of course, that includes our Louisiana State Police, GOSEP, Army Corps of Engineers, of course, our Louisiana National Guard, FEMA, boots on the ground, just a holistic approach and a unified command. Also, our coordinating partners with the tourism and hospitality industry, our business community, transit services, hospitals, and shelters. You're going to hear from more of our leaders after me as we run through this press conference as you normally do. Again, on today, it's just a real reminder, first responders, we are just stronger with you and really nothing without you. And I say today, thinking about 9/11 as I adorn my fire department, but again, public safety team, just thank you for what you do and how you show up. We want our folks, again, to stay connected to real-time updates from the city of New Orleans by texting, again, all one word NOLA Ready to 77295. Again, everyone plays a role in keeping our city, keeping one another safe, and our greatest assets are our people, and particularly employees of the city of New Orleans, as I'm leaning on them every single day, but today, and as we prepare for Hurricane Francine. I want to thank the members of the New Orleans City Council. Thank you, district leaders, for identifying your sandbag locations. They went off well yesterday. You were boots on the ground. Appreciate that. Councilman Thomas, you said you need a little bit more volunteers. I think we're solid in that regard as well. So with that, I'm going to ask Director Colin Arnold to come forth, and we will proceed through our leaders, and we'll take it from there. All right, Colin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your leadership. We were able to have a really good mayor's briefing this morning. We had all of our department heads, city department heads, boards and commissions, all of our relevant stakeholders, plus about 35 to 40 other state, federal partners. I mean, it was a really good briefing. We're ready to go, and we'll be looking forward to doing another briefing tomorrow once this is passed. The Office of Homeland Security and Emergency Preparedness continues to monitor Hurricane Francine. We are under a hurricane watch and a tropical storm warning, and that remains in effect over the New Orleans area. Francine is a Category 1 hurricane. As the mayor mentioned, the impact's expected late afternoon to early evening today. Residents are urged to shelter indoors during dangerous storm conditions. I've been watching this very closely over the past several advisories, looking at the hour to hour provided by the National Weather Service. You know, what I would like to communicate with the public is, you know, shortly after you watching this around 2 p.m., you're going to see conditions start to diminish. Rain will start to pick up. Winds will start to pick up and get gustier. Critically, around 6 p.m. tonight, that's the time, seriously, to be indoors, be off the roads, hunker down, and be prepared to spend the night with family, with friends, indoors through about 6 to 7 a.m. We'll start to see some gradual improvement. And then around noon tomorrow, you're going to see dramatic improvement. And so we're obviously all looking forward to that. But just to give you a kind of an idea, there is a possibility overnight tonight, particularly around midnight to about 4 a.m., winds gusting up to 70 miles an hour. That's possible. I'd say sustained winds around 40 miles an hour is definitely possible. And so those are the types of winds that we're going to be looking at. So power outages can be a concern. We're communicating with Energy. They're upstairs in our Emergency Operations Center right now. All of our liaisons in the Emergency Operations Center, all of our emergency support functions are in their seats. They will be here. They were here last night. They'll be here today, tonight, tomorrow, until we have gotten through this and it's over and we're looking at recovery. I want to remind people, and you'll hear it probably again, generator safety in the case of power outages. If you're using a gasoline generator, please make sure. We lost more people during Hurricane Ida to generators than we did to the storm, and I cannot overstate that. Rainfall, currently calling 4 to 6 inches to potentially 8 inches of rain over this event. That would be from now until tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow at noon. I would say that those local amounts could be higher. We're engaged with Sewage and Water Board. They're upstairs in the Emergency Operations Center as well. And, you know, they're in a good situation with pumps and power, but just, you know, expectation wise, realize that certain times, if we get enough rain with this, you know, there will be street flooding. And that's why we want to continue to, you know, inform the public to stay indoors and stay off the roads. It keeps you safe. It keeps all of our people safe, and we'll get through this. Isolated tornadoes, always a possibility with a storm like this, particularly when we're in the northeast quadrant of the storm. You know, those winds can become, bowed and circular and start creating tornadic activity. So isolated tornadoes, it's not a major concern, but it is a possibility. And we want to make sure that everyone knows about that. We have set up several rec centers. We started off with 3 when we briefed you the other day. When we saw the east trend, we wanted to lean forward more. You know, under the mayor's leadership, we have put generators on 5 more facilities, and they're not open. They will be after the storm, should it be necessary, and we'll make sure that those are emergency resource centers where you can go and get supplies, air conditioning, water, charge devices, exchange medical batteries for devices, oxygen bottles, and the like. And so you'll hear a little bit more about that as well. But again, they're not open right now. They'll be open once the storm passes, should it be necessary. Again, and I cannot emphasize enough, please, starting this afternoon, particularly tonight, this evening, 6, 7 o'clock, get indoors, get off the roads. Residents, we've had quite a bit of interest in NOLA Ready emergency alerts, which is always heartening to us. We have over 300,000 subscribers who have opted in to receive our alerts. You can do that by texting NOLA Ready, one word, NOLA Ready, to 77295. If you'd like those alerts in Spanish, text ESP to 77295 and you'll receive the same alerts in Spanish. And you can always visit us at ready.nola.gov. Huge banner across the top of both the NOLA Ready website and the city's main website that says Hurricane Francine. Click here for more details, and that's where you can find more information. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Jenna Vegno, Director of the New Orleans Health Department. And thank you.
Colin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thanks, Colin. Just very briefly, the health department has been in contact with all of our local hospitals. They have activated their emergency plans. They are identifying no challenges at this time, proceeding with inpatient care as normal. We've also been in touch with our dialysis centers who got people in early and have a plan for dialysis. We have been in contact with all of the nearly 70 independent living facilities who are required to communicate with us every day in a declared emergency. If you remember, this came out of the last storm, and I'm very happy to report that we've been in communication with all of them. None of them are reporting any issues. We stand ready once the storm has passed, should there be any issues, to send strike teams out of there. So our healthcare facilities, our nursing homes, and our independent living facilities all are reporting no issues at this time. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you so much, Dr. Vegno. And I wanted to ask at this time, I have Nate come on up following Dr. Vegno. And as I do that, just a real shout out to the men and women of NORD. You know, you've stood up our shelter. Nate's gonna give you more info on that, but just thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, everyone. Just to go back on what Madam Mayor just said, NORD CEO Larry Barambino, thank you so much for helping us stand up that shelter so quickly. Staff have been nothing but professional, helping us feed the individuals. And even last night, when we thought everything was going to get to the worst, your staff stepped up and gave us 24-hour operation. That was amazing. So thank you very much. Shout out to all of our first responders who helped transport individuals last night, and bigger shout out to constituents who made phone calls to that individual they saw going down the street. Thank you for 311, 911 calls and helping those individuals get to shelter and transport. Thank you so very much for that. Right now, all of our current shelters are full. We still have spaces available through our NORD sites. So we have an individual who needs to get transported to those locations. They are in place. Thanks again to our CEO, who has made sure that we have staff and locations that are stood in place for those locations, and individuals who are experiencing homelessness. Even if the individual is somebody who's impaired, we are still trying to help them get transported to the location where they need to go to. We are also still driving around until the winds hit about 50 miles per hour. We are following the same exact ordinance that the ambulatory folks are following, 50 miles per hour or greater. We will shut down operation. We will be out for the entirety of tonight until we are told to stop doing transports. My team is out in the field as we speak. I'm also driving around as well, making sure that individuals who in high visibility spaces are asked to go in the shelter. We cannot force anyone indoors. We can only ask. When those individuals will take, we will transport. So thank you to everyone who's been a part of this process, and we hope that everyone continues to be a part of this process as we get into the next couple of hours. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you, Nate. And at this time, I'm just going to transition into updates from council members who are present, and then we'll get into departments. Councilman Green, you want to start?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I appreciate the fact that in this room there is gathered such a group of very motivated citizens who are providing resources to our fellow citizens, and I've seen that action happen just on yesterday. We had a sandbag filling episode on yesterday where we filled over 1,000 sandbags, and we had volunteers coming from throughout the neighborhoods to support their fellow residents. We had members of the New Orleans Police Department who stood with us in the rain and provided support all the way until the end of that episode of what we had on yesterday in terms of the sandbag distribution. But I've seen so much going on throughout the district. I want those who are watching to feel confident that there are a variety of individuals, a variety of workers who are willing to provide services to you, and they're doing so. I did drive the district this morning, my particular district, District D. I do want to encourage us all to not aim for 6 o'clock to be inside, but to be inside as early as you can. Just take advantage of the opportunity to shelter in place. I saw a number of cars that I think that maybe we have too many on the street. So let's just make sure that we recognize that even though there's a mention of the time of 6 o'clock p.m., let's get inside as early as we can. I do want to also take an opportunity to just say I drove the lakefront. I want to encourage everyone who is considering driving to just see what the site looks like of water coming over the seawall to not do so. At the end of the day, there's a lot of water in the street there and you could be trapped. But I do appreciate the fact that we have a very motivated citizenry, a very motivated group of residents in our city who are willing to provide services to others. Everyone knows someone, an elderly person or someone who may be infirm, who could use a phone call and be asked, "How are you doing?" Be sure to call me if anything comes up. Maybe you might have to bring them to the shelter, or maybe you might have to bring them some assistance. But that's what New Orleans is all about, people helping other people. I saw so much the last couple of days in that regard, and I want to encourage everyone to recognize that there's someone you know who could need some assistance. I do want to thank Mayor Cantrell for putting together a great team, because this team is in place in many, many ways and is working really hard already to make sure our citizens are safer. Those who are watching should know that there's a lot of support for you out there. Take advantage of the resources. NOLA ready. Take advantage of also the 311 option. Call friends and family, and let's get through this safely. And the last thing I'll close with is something that's a pet peeve of mine, because our director, Colin Arnold, mentioned it, the generators. Today, as I drove through the district and I went to a store or two, I saw people buying generators. Really, those generators should be installed by electricians. But if you're going to install the generator yourself, please read the directions and follow them to the T, if you will, because it's so important to be reminded that we lost more people to generator use and carbon monoxide than we did to the storm itself. So, Madam Mayor, thank you for this opportunity. There are a lot of things I want to talk about, and I'm glad you gave me an opportunity to do so.
Well, you always do
Thank
a
you.
great job. And so we're
Thank
gonna keep the momentum going.
Thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
But very briefly, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for having us here today. I do want to give a shout out to DPW, to the Sewer and Water Board, and to the Drads YMCA. This isn't a competition, but we gave out over 2,000 bags of sand to about 400 cars and people walking up. And so I just want to give a shout out to the folks who made that happen. We had a cadre of volunteers, including people from JP Morrell's office, my office, and we had a wonderful event. Just a couple things from my end. Please make sure you secure your trash cans, your potted plants. Those things can become airborne when high winds arrive. Also, it is the law that if you have pets outside, you must bring them inside. Even if you have to put them in a kennel, make sure that they are safe and inside. We need to care for our pets, our vulnerable people. And so just everybody, please stay safe. And thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you so much. Councilman Thomas.
It's amazing how the city comes together in times of peril and disaster. We probably need to use that playbook every day. It's not a competition between our district. First of all, I want to thank all of the council members who participated in the sandbag giveaway, but District E, we did 2,500.
You did them all. He called me yesterday afternoon
I
saying,
said, could you please give us some volunteers? Yeah, but you know, when your people need you, it doesn't matter if your back hurts, your heart hurts, because when your community hurts, it's time for us to get over whatever our pain is and deliver. Deidre Kelly, Dominique Lang Jackson, Darren Martin, Lena Stewart, Andrea Mumford, from 9 o'clock until 3:30 yesterday, over 2,500 sandbags. I want to thank the GOSEP team. You guys came and delivered twice. We appreciated that. St. Bernard Project, those volunteers who stayed out there with us a while, Mayor. I want to thank the Archdiocese and Maria Goretti Church for allowing us to use their facility. I always tell people there's some value in being around, and I was telling the mayor and her team earlier, we've been through this a few times before. Been through it as growing up in this city. I've been through it as an elected official. But I think it's important for the press to know that this time the communication has been stellar. From the governor calling me to check on our district, from the mayor checking in, to listening to Colin Arnold and the people we have here. And I will tell you, in the past, the problem was, whether it was because of the weather or the event, the inability for critical staff and leadership to communicate with each other. That has not been a problem. Everybody who has played a role, who is playing a role, Madam Mayor, whether it's the governor coordinating, or you coordinating, or critical people coordinating, it has not been hard to get access. And for the press who's here, in the past, that was the problem. Katrina was a major problem. Critical and emergency staff the Friday before the storm couldn't communicate. Critical staff during the storm couldn't communicate. So that level of communication and collaboration is important. Mother Nature is going to do what she has to do. But when we can get together and when we can be prepared, the storm's going to do what it does, but at least we're all on the same page. So thank you, and thank your team. They've been clear, they've been concise, and they've worked. The only thing I'll say is that now that we're at the event, based on my experience, that day after the last strong wind blows or when the water goes down, historically, I think we're going to have to rely on the press. And I talked about translation of communication and what happened in the past when it didn't work, especially for people who don't speak English. And then the other thing is for people who will traverse and drive our streets. In the past few floods, there have been people who once they thought the rain was over, they tried to drive under the underpass. They tried to drive towards the street where they didn't know it was flooding. So I think that level of communication is going to have to continue, just to let folk know, wait as long as possible until we can tell them it's okay. But thank you, guys.
No, thank you, Councilman. Thank you. One of the things I would say over the past 6 years plus, this team is battle tested in every way, more so than any other administration in the history of the city of New Orleans. And so, again, there's no better team that I would rather be with than this one right here. And as the council member mentioned, in terms of driving with standing water, we get this from residents. Well, can you put another sign up after the U-turn? Well, we have the signages up right now. Please follow instructions, read the signs, take necessary precautions, and you will be safe. So with that, we're going to keep it going. And I want to now ask, I'm going to start with Chief in terms of the New Orleans Police Department.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, everyone. The NOPD's primary responsibility during this event is to keep the safety of our citizens, our businesses, and not only them, but also our visitors to the city. So with that said, all our officers working 12-hour shifts, daytime and nighttime shift. All our officers will be in uniform. That includes every division, bureau, detectives, every asset we have will be working. We also have deployed numerous high water vehicles and boats to the districts in case they are needed. I want to thank the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, the state troopers, and National Guard for providing us with assistance as well. If needed, we'll be able to deploy. We also have sheriff's deputies deployed through our various districts. Our officers, we talk about underpasses. Our officers will be monitoring those underpasses for high water and also provide barricades if needed to those locations. We're also providing patrol with our overhead lights on. That is for our visibility and presence so that you see that our officers are out there. We have asked, you've heard numerous times, stay away from high water. Don't try to drive through those underpasses because that will require you to get help, and then that puts our officers in a situation they don't need to be in. With that said, we want like everyone to stay safe, and if you do need us, we'll be able to respond during this event unless it is too dangerous to respond. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chief. And I'm going to ask now Chief Nelson. Supernet, come on.
Thank you, Mayor, and hello, everyone. You know, the mayor touched on it. It is 9/11, and today, you know, in memory of those firefighters and first responders that sacrificed their lives on that day, we remember them as they would want us to, by going to work as first responders. You know, your first responders are prepared; they're ready for whatever may come. But we need your help as always. I think everyone has touched on it. Stay off the streets. By now, you should be home. Your preparation should be done, right? Help our first responders to be safe by not putting them at risk to come out and have to do rescues for people who are out looking around, riding around in the storm. Stay at home, be safe, help us keep our first responders safe. Couple of things, right? Potential power outages. Have your battery-powered radio, right? I know that might be a foreign thing for a lot of young people nowadays, but if you don't have a battery-powered radio, Colin touched on it, right? NOLA ready. Text 77295 to NOLA ready, and you can get those updates. We will make sure you're kept updated on any emergency things that you need to know. If the power goes out, flashlights, not candles, right? We see so many fires after the power goes out from people using those candles that they have tucked away in the drawer, right? They're dangerous. They melt. They fall over. The curtains blow onto them and catch fire. So just don't use candles, right? Use flashlights instead of candles. If you have to go out after the storm to check on